Hey, I'm Josh Dorfman, CEO and host of Super Cool, co-founder of Planted, and today we are going to talk about climate innovation that's winning in the market, driving impact, saving money, and taking market share.
Welcome to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owners Association, where real estate investors have found success since 1968. I'm your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group. This episode is sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And RCB and Associates, helping real estate investors and small business owners navigate the complex world of health insurance and Medicare benefits at rcbassociatesllc.com. Hello and welcome to episode 518. For investors, rehabbers, and developers, the future of real estate is about more than location. It's about materials, costs, and sustainability. My guest today is Josh Dorfman, a climate entrepreneur and media personality who co-founded Planted, a carbon-negative building materials company named one of Fast Company's most innovative companies. You may also know Josh as the creator of the Lazy Environmentalist, the award-winning TV series on the Sundance Channel, a long-running Sirius XM radio show, and 2 books. Today, he hosts Super Cool on YouTube, where he spotlights practical climate solutions that cut carbon, save money, and increase property values. Josh, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here, Brian.
I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into this field.
The story for me goes back about 30 years. I went to China as in the mid-1990s, right after university, thinking about a career. I was actually thinking about a career, maybe joining the CIA, maybe being a diplomat. I didn't know, but I just figured if I get to China, like cool things are going to happen. And so I was teaching English on the university. Those cool things didn't happen, but I ended up going to work for an American company called Kryptonite that made bike locks. And I don't know if you ever remember like the original Kryptonite.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So they opened their first factory in China about 20 minutes from where I was teaching English, and I was the one hired to go onto the factory floor and make sure the Chinese knew that America was quote unquote watching, do some, ostensibly quality control. And it was really a remarkable experience, changed my whole trajectory, got very interested in business. And then I realized along the way that, wow, there's 1 billion people here riding bikes. I'm trying to, I think I'm going to retire by the time I'm 30 selling bike locks, but turns out they all want cars. And that dawning realization made me eventually start thinking, what are we going to do when there's 1 billion more cars in China? And then you think about Eastern Europe and the rest of the developing world trying to catch up to America. What does that mean from a climate perspective? And it kind of set me on my way, starting to launch different sustainability ventures. At first, trying to help consumers shift their consumption into a more sustainable direction by serving up solutions that were stylish, well-designed, convenient, easy, and also environmentally responsible. And then with Planted and building materials, the focus shifted more toward B2B and really thinking more industry scale. How do we take solutions to scale and really try and drive transformational change?
Sustainability is one of those words that I think has different interpretations. So I'd love it if you could just kind of explain what sustainability means to you and how you see it applying to real estate investors, property owners, builders, and people in the development world.
My definition is pretty straightforward. For me, sustainability means to live as well as we possibly can today while enabling future generations to do the same. And so when I think about what does it mean to apply that lens to the real estate market, I see it from a number of different views. I mean, if we talk for a minute about the company Planted that we started working on 4 years ago, Planted, we came up with this idea. It was kind of wild and crazy. I did it with 2 engineers from SpaceX. And we started thinking like, man, could we grow something that grows faster than trees? Trees are really good at photosynthesis, pulling carbon from the atmosphere, right? That's a good, climate solution. But it's slow. It takes a long time for a tree to grow. And so we thought, what if we could find something that would grow like 5-10 times faster? And we ended up finding this grass, kind of like bamboo, but thinner, that will grow like 10 times faster than trees. And it's structural. So if you actually grow it, harvest it, you could actually start replacing trees in the built environment, starting with home building. We've done this. And so with the SpaceX team, we started growing this grass. We took a a mill-sized factory, which is basically like the size of a small town with giant smokestacks, and we shrunk the technology inside down to a miniaturized scale. Think of it like a desktop printer, and about 140 feet long. We grow this grass, slice it thin, press it down, run it through our press, and 40 feet later, out comes a 4x8 structural panel that replaces OSB or plywood in the built environment. We got DR Horton to place an order for 10 million of these panels in late 2024. We're kind of off to the races because it's a panel that competes on price, is more moisture resistant, it's actually better in a home, has incredible strength properties that we can really lean into. Now we're looking at developing 2x4s because this grass is just remarkably strong. And this is an opportunity to pull carbon from the atmosphere, not give it back up a smokestack because there's no smokestack on our factory, and sequester away that carbon in the walls and roofs of new homes in a way that actually makes those homes better at a cost comparative price without any alternative building techniques, right? That's the kind of innovation we're looking for. Can you compete on price? Can you deliver a better product? And can you ask a real estate professional or a home builder to do nothing different than they're doing right now? And so that's what Planted's all about. That's what I see on the material side. That's how you get to a win.
Very interesting. Talk about DR Horton. So they purchase these. How are they employing this material, and what has the result been so far?
So back in 2021, when I first met one of my co-founders, Wada, who had spent 8 years leading the life support systems team, keeping astronauts alive on the Dragon crew spacecraft at SpaceX, we got together, we said, okay, we think this is a good idea. Let's go talk to home builders. What, if we're going to do this, what should we make? And we quickly started leaning into an OSB replacement would be really interesting because moisture is a pretty big deal in a lot of markets, right? If OSB gets wet, you got a problem when you start to lose its integrity.
Josh, just so our audience understands, when you say OSB, you're talking about like particle board that is used quite often in construction? It's
called oriented strand board. It's effectively taken most of the market share away from plywood when you build a house. It is those 4 foot by 8 foot panels that you see going up that are getting nailed to the 2x4s. So that material is called oriented strand board. And really it's just you're orienting like 3 layers of chipped wood. So kind of, if you say particle board, applying glue, and you can create something structural and good enough. I mean, it's a good enough material, but it's not great. In early 2022, we were introduced to the innovation team, the procurement team at DR Horton, who was interested in what we were doing. We had just raised a round of capital, and an investor connected us. They got interested for a few reasons, and I think, Brian, this really goes to the crux of how I see sustainability and climate playing out in real estate. They got interested. We had this climate story, we have this sustainability story. That's interesting. That's a door opener. When they came to visit us, we got started in Durham, North Carolina. What they saw was that we could show them our moisture testing, right? So we could say, look, like this product, these are early tests, but we believe this is going to perform better out in the world than what you have today. We could show them really amazing strength properties, which, long-term may have some benefit. And we could say to them, look, we're going to build a factory that we can put anywhere. And we're going to grow a grass that we can grow right near like where you want to build. So we can cut out cost from the supply chain. We can give you more control. This is an entirely domestic supply chain. You don't have to worry about importing with tariffs from Canada or wildfires or wars in Ukraine where Baltic birch comes from. We're going to make this as localized, as domestic, and as close to where you want to build as possible so that we can try to be as strategic to you as a supply chain partner as we can possibly be. Now, all of those things really start to light up the eyes of you can imagine someone who's in charge of purchasing, or someone who's in charge of innovation, or someone who's in charge of logistics, because we're serving the challenges they're really seeing about the future. The sustainability stuff is nice as long as the numbers work and the strategy's right and everything fits. And that is what I see when I look across real estate today and solutions that are, I would say, sustainability solutions succeeding at really the biggest scale, and I can talk about what that means. They do have that in common. They solve real problems for investors, for cities, for residents or tenants, And they also have a carbon mission where they're reducing carbon or they're using better materials. But that's not what the companies that are really driving market adoption and changing industries, they're not leading with the climate benefit. They're leading with the economic and business benefit.
Can you quantify the economic and business benefit for DR Horton? And like, how much money are they saving by using planted product instead of regular OSB?
Really what we're trying to do with DR Horton, or what, when you get a contract like that as a young company, right? That contract gets us, as we fulfill that contract, gets us to cost competitiveness, right? We will get there with them. And so it is, they are really investing with us into the long term, so that as it is a way for us to get to our economies of scale and be able to really control our own destiny. We are close right now, and we're going to get closer. And then eventually, it will be an opportunity where we will have pricing. We'll be able to control our pricing, and based on what we think that, the market will accept.
At what point do you think people can just go to Home Depot and buy planted boards?
Home Depot is an interesting, I guess you could say, nut to crack, because you can't just be in one Home Depot, right? You either at national scale or you are not in Home Depot. And we've had some of those preliminary conversations. They're very interested in what we're doing, but I think it is a longer view with a Home Depot about when we might show up. We certainly talk to all the major home improvement shops and keep those relationships very warm.
You've been in this field of sustainability and environmentalism for a long time. What other types of products are out there, or that you know of? And it seems like you run in these circles if you're working with SpaceX engineers. What else is out there on the horizon that we should be aware of as real estate investors that eventually we might switch over to and save money and save the environment at the same time?
There's the innovations that are making buildings far more efficient to operate than they have previously. I think of it as like, energy efficiency has long been kind of within the sustainability realm, probably just like the world of real estate too. It's like the medicine you should take, but nobody really wants to take. It's kind of boring. It's kind of dull. Feels like, a lot of like caulking and what have you. But the next generation is quite different. There's a company I was talking to recently, for example, called Brainbox AI. And this is a cloud-based AI solution for efficiently controlling HVAC systems within very large buildings. It's already in 17,000 buildings today. It really started commercializing about 6 or 7 years ago. And the reason why is because what Brainbox's solution can do is it can plug right into the software that's controlling a building's HVAC system today. Plug right into all the different sensors on all, if you're in a big Empire skyscraper, probably, the Empire State Building, probably has about 4,000 sensors in it, right? And then what it can do is control all of them. It can send signals to them. And because of the AI, it can say with 96% accuracy, or it can tell who's going to be on a given floor 6 hours from now, right? With 96% certainty. So it can either steadily cool that space or heat that space. It knows when energy is cheaper on the grid, and maybe it starts doing it more at that time over this time period. It knows when there's less carbon intensity on the grid, more renewables, maybe it operates at that time. It knows the sun angle. It knows the wind speed. It knows all of this data. And what that results in is HVAC systems becoming, 20 to 25% more efficient, resulting in costs going down, up to 20 to 25%, carbon going down up to 40%, with a solution that's really not asking anyone to do anything different, right? It's pretty seamless. It plugs in. So it spread rapidly. Actually, Trane acquired the company earlier this year because it was so successful. So you see that kind of technology. I think it's really exciting. People think, well, is AI a problem? Is AI a solution? I see, is AI a problem because it's going to use so much energy? Well, that is a conversation to have. But at the same time, we're seeing AI actually being used really interestingly and effectively in the built environment. The other thing that we see are technologies like AeroSeal. And this is a fascinating company. But the solution sounds so obvious, and when you hear it, you think, well, why did it take 30 years to get here? Basically, AeroSeal was invented in the 1990s, and it's the challenge with buildings, again, when it comes back to HVAC and just buildings in general, is leakage. Right? You're losing so much energy through the air ducts, maybe through the ultimate, out the windows. And it can be, if an HVAC system heating and cooling a building takes 40 to 50% of the overall energy, which is a lot of cost, you could lose half of that through leaks. So AeroSeal invented effectively like an aerosol spray that can just seamlessly go into the ducts inside a building, the air ducts, and seal them from the inside. This aerosol finds where the leaks are and it moves right to them and clogs them up. You create negative pressure inside the air ducts and it seals it up very fast, very efficiently. Otherwise, what are you going to do? You're not going to tear your walls out. You're not going to turn your building into a construction site just to try to clog your leaks. So this is a solution that's now in the Wynn Hotel. It's in the MetLife building above Grand Central. It's in, I think, 200,000 some odd buildings worldwide. And it really only started commercializing about a decade ago. It just took a long time for this technology to find its way to the right CEO who had the right vision, eventually got backing by Bill Gates and Breakthrough Technology Ventures, and it's kind of our Breakthrough Energy Ventures kind of off to the races.
I'd like to take a moment to tell you about Green Property Management. Not only do they manage everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area, they also manage my entire portfolio. So I can tell you from personal experience that their unique flat fee management style is worth a closer look. If you feel that your property isn't operating to its fullest potential, then Green Property Management can help you take a holistic approach that will save you money, eliminate your headaches, and increase your net income. And if you're a property manager interested in applying Green Property Management's model, give them a call at 1-866-95-GREEN or visit them on the web at greenpropertymgt.com. If you're thinking of leaving your W-2 job and becoming a full-time real estate investor, one of the greatest costs you must consider is healthcare for you and your family. When I made this transition myself, I found the whole healthcare insurance process to be confusing and frustrating. That's why I'm glad I met Chad Creasy at RCB and Associates. Chad is a professional health insurance agent who helps real estate investors and small business owners understand and choose their best healthcare options. And best of all, his services are covered by the insurance company and won't cost you a dime. If you live in Michigan and are expecting a change in your healthcare insurance coverage for any reason, or losing employer coverage or transitioning into Medicare, then you owe it to yourself to contact Chad Creasy at rcbassociatesllc.com. So you spray this aerosol in between the walls or into the ventilation, and it goes and it like just goes right to where the cracks are?
It goes right into the ducts. And so the technology it's advanced because it has to work with different humidity, different barometric pressure. I mean, there's a lot that goes into having this aerosol kind of tracking inside a duct and sealing the leak from the inside out, as opposed to trying to do it the other way, which becomes kind of cost prohibitive. So, those are the solutions that I see kind of product-wise. One of the other things, I just had this really fascinating conversation. So this is on Super Cool. This is our kind of podcast newsletter with this guy, Jared Del Valle, who's the CEO of Alloy Development. Alloy just built, they opened it in 2024. They built New York City's first fossil fuel-free skyscraper, all electric. So no boilers, right? So it's all induction range cooking stoves, electric heating for the water, electric for the heating and cooling for the air. And the backer for that project was Goldman Sachs. So, and what Jared said to me is like, yeah, this is what Goldman told him was this was the first time that the credit committee actually evaluated environmental and social criteria in its risk profile of what they were going to underwrite. And that's really remarkable. So if you think about, where are really strong returns, and the returns, the building opened last year, leased up really fast. Investors started competing for Alloy's next project, which is the world's tallest passive house skyscraper. So incredible energy efficiency, right? Triple glazed windows. I mean, it's going to bring the energy usage down so much. And then they'll do the same things. There'll be no fossil fuels in that building as well. And the reason why investors are competing is because they know it's the future and the returns are excellent. And the returns are excellent not just because consumers are now kind of excited about that, because it's more comfortable to live in that space. Your bills are lower. It's also because when you're operating those buildings, the operating costs for landlords and owners just go way down, just given how efficient and kind of future-proof they are.
Energy costs are definitely, for real estate investors, one of the biggest controllable expenses that they can tackle to help their bottom line and increase NOI. But a lot of what you're talking about is at like the large scale, Goldman Sachs and large skyscrapers. What is available to, a lot of our listeners are like single family, small multifamily, maybe larger apartment investors. What is out there right now at the consumer level that is low-hanging fruit that our listeners could really benefit from?
I would say a few things. I would say, again, depending on what the kind of needs are, what you're doing with your building. We've seen companies that are doing very innovative things with heat pumps. Heat pumps are also, depending on your climate, very incredibly efficient for heating and cooling a space. There's a company called Quilt, which I've started tracking, which has, these are the ductless air conditioning and heating for spaces. They are the most efficient on the market today. And what was really strikes me as very interesting about this company, Quilt. So I think they started in San Francisco. They've opened LA. They've now opened 12 more markets. They're expanding nationally. It was started by 3 engineers from Google, which sounds nice, but what it means in practice was this. Just over the last couple of weeks, Quilt was getting feedback from their customers that were saying, "Hey, you put this ductless, unit in my kind of kitchen living room. Love it, but it's not really powerful enough. I don't feel like it's really, is strong enough for my space." And the Quilt guys actually did the first thing that's never been done before. Like when you're in a Tesla and you get all these like over-the-air updates from the software and the Tesla gets better. This was the first ever over-the-air software update for an HVAC system, where they just updated the software and they increased the output of the unit by something like 20 to 25%. And so there's products like Quilt. I just talked to this guy, Sam Kalish. He's the CEO of a company called Copper that has made an induction range stove. Now, the reason why that might be interesting, depending on where you live, is this is a unit that does cost about, I think it's $4,500 to $5,000 in that range. In certain states, there are still like tax incentives, ways to actually cut that cost. States like New York, I think there are actually rebates if you're going to do some rehab or some refurbishment to actually like install these because it's part of electrification. The thing that Copper did that was so innovative is that typically, if you're going to put an induction range stove into your unit, you may have to upgrade your electrical panel and your wiring. You might have to run a 240 volt to your kitchen. That's a lot of expense if it can be done, if you can get the engineer, et cetera. Copper integrated a battery into the induction range stove, so you can just plug it into the same standard outlet as your toaster or your Cuisinart. The battery will charge, and so you will have enough energy in the battery coupled with what's coming through the wall that when you go to cook, you actually have more than enough power to cook whatever meals you want. And it also means in a blackout, of course, you've got a battery, so you can continue cooking probably several meals. But it's that type of innovation, really at the product level, that I think is here. And this is really about upgrading the quality of life in buildings, just as you're cutting energy and really preparing for a more electrified future, which is where I think we're really moving to.
A lot of what I hear when you talk about sustainability or others talk about sustainability is like going electric, heat pumps, things that conserve on natural gas. But I live in Grand Rapids, and a lot of the rental properties here are 100 years old. And the number one problem is plumbing, leaky pipes, old leaky pipes and radiators and things like that. And I'm just wondering what is out there on the horizon for those of us who may not have the money to just go and replace wholesale all of our leaky pipes, but are hoping, like me, that there's some sort of technology coming where I can just put it in the water and it will seal all the cracks.
I have no idea. I don't know. I would suspect something is coming. If the pain is that big, I would imagine something is. But I don't know, Brian. That's a very good question. But I will say, I'm going to actually probably bring it back to electrification for a second. But I will say, there is another opportunity emerging for building owners, whether it's homes or, whether it's a smaller apartment complex, it's not going to solve your problem, but it is going to potentially create another revenue stream, which I think is very interesting. There's a company called It's Electric, and that's actually, for us, that's this week's show. We talked to their co-founder and CEO, Tia Gordon. It's Electric has invented a way to partner with building owners to install an EV charger right out on the curb, right outside their buildings. One of the issues with EV adoption for city dwellers is charging, right? If you don't have your own garage or access to a garage where there's chargers, that's a problem. It's just inaccessible. So they've designed this really sleek charger. Tia actually led the project to design the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. So she's a technologist and really knows how to work in public spaces. And so the way this works, she calls it shallow tech. You run a shallow conduit from, say, the electrical panel or the electricity of a building just below the sidewalk to the charger that's right by the curb so people can pull up and charge. And then there's a revenue at no cost to the building owner. And then they revenue share all the charging income with the building owner, and they get this, very convenient charging for people in that building or on that street. That is here. That is now in Boston and San Francisco. Another one just opened yesterday in Alameda. And the next thing they're doing, they actually just got a grant from the California Energy Commission to build the first curbside EV charger with two-way bidirectional charging, which means that if your car is sitting there and it's tapped up and you're plugged into its electric charging unit, you can sell your electricity from your battery back to the grid and actually make money as the car owner. And so one of the things Tia said to me, she's like, I think we're moving into a world as more landlords and more building owners get on board with this, where EV chargers become so prevalent, so ubiquitous, that cars become wallets, energy becomes currency, because you will actually have money in your battery. That energy will be currency, and as long as you're plugged into one of these chargers that can go both ways, it's a revenue opportunity.
Any other revenue opportunities that you know of for real estate investors?
That one strikes me as, of course, super cool, but not quite like that. If I hear of something, I will send you some notes, because now I feel like I've got two tasks: find more revenue opportunities and find a solution for leaky pipes and old furnaces in places like Grand Rapids.
Well, Grand Rapids, I have a 96 unit Chicago style, 7-story, 100-year-old building. And I'm sure, it's not just Grand Rapids, but Chicago, New York, any city that has old buildings is dealing with the leaky pipes. And, other than hire Sage Water to come in and replace all those pipes, what is what else is a possibility? Because I love the aerosol spray that you spray in the vents and it automatically finds the leaks and seals them. Let's do that with water.
Let's do it. I agree. Got to figure that out.
How would people find out more about you, follow you? I mean, feel free to plug whatever you would like to.
The best place to find what we're doing was super cool when we're covering these kinds of companies and innovations, what's coming to market, is our website, which is getsuper.cool. Our weekly podcast, Super Cool, is on every channel, YouTube as well. I am on LinkedIn more than anywhere else, so if folks want to connect with me, that's the best place to do it. I will say as well, we are getting ready to launch our first Super Cool course. It's called the Climate Adoption Playbook, and really this is certainly for operators who are building the kinds of solutions I'm talking about. It's also for corporate leaders. It's also for investors who want to understand how do I evaluate a climate solution to know, is this really de-risked? Is this viable? And what we're doing is, I'm teaching from the perspective of what we did at Planted to drive market adoption for our solution, and having talked to now over 50 of these world-class climate companies that have figured out as well how to drive market adoption, how to win customers, how to de-risk, how to scale. We kind of pull that all together into a playbook to teach people, how to assess the market, how to scale their solutions, and how to win so you drive revenue and, ultimately positive impact.
How are you using AI right now?
AI is with me every day. Sometimes that makes me very frustrated. Sometimes it makes me very, very pleased. But I really use AI to analyze, the content that we're creating. So if I record a podcast with one of the companies I just mentioned, one of their founders or one of their CEOs, I'll throw that into ChatGPT and I'll say, what did we talk about? Analyze this for me. What were the big themes? What are the through lines? What really comes through it? What are those, what's the playbook this company is using? Like, play that back to me so we can kind of distill that and really, it really helps me kind of dial in the understanding so we can go teach and help our audience kind of learn fast as well.
Josh, thanks for coming on the show today. I mean, in talking about sustainability, I know that word has a lot of meanings, and I like the way you distilled it and showed concrete examples of how sustainable businesses are here now that are actually creating products like Planted that can not only save money, but save the environment too. So thank you so much for coming on the show today and having this conversation. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Brian. I really enjoyed it.
I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode. I'm your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group, and you can find out more about me by going to higinvestor.com. That's higinvestor.com. This episode was sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And RCB and Associates, helping real estate investors and small business owners navigate the complex world of health insurance and Medicare benefits at rcbassociatesllc.com.
You've been listening to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association. You can find out more at rpoaonline.org. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and review.